Just imagine for a second a world where your money, your identity, and your financial freedom are completely, totally in your control. A world where banks are optional and digital assets power pretty much everything. Now, this isn't some far-off sci-fi movie. It's the revolution that's happening right now, and it's all powered by blockchain. So let's dive in and see what this new digital frontier actually looks like. Okay, before we get started, just a quick heads up. This explainer from us here at Blockspawns Funds is purely for educational and informational purposes. It is definitely not financial or investment advice. So let's kick things off with that really big question. What if the power really did shift back to you? You know, the internet we all use today has connected us in some incredible ways, but let's be honest, it's also created these incredibly powerful gatekeepers. This new wave of technology is basically asking, what if we could just rebuild it, but differently? To really get a handle on where we're going, we first have to understand the limits of where we are right now. The internet we're on today, what people often call Web 2, has a very, very specific structure of power. And what's so great about this slide is how it just boils down the core shift. In Web 2, right, we all create the content, our posts, our photos, our videos, but it's the platforms, the hosts who have all the authority. They set the rules, they own the data, and they control who gets access. Web 3 completely flips that on its head. We still create the content, but the authority, that comes from the users themselves, and it's all locked in with cryptography. This one simple shift is the foundation for everything else we're about to talk about. It moves power away from corporations and back to individuals. So this new way of thinking is called Web 3, and it's not just an upgrade. It's a fundamental rethinking of how the entire internet works. It's a vision for a web that is decentralized and, most importantly, owned by its users. You know, this quote from one of the pioneers of the space, Gavin Wood, really gets to the heart of it. This isn't just about crypto. No, it's a much bigger idea about building digital worlds that are more open, more fair, and more transparent for every single person. Okay, so how does this whole thing actually work? Well, Web3 is built on a few key pillars. First, forget centralized servers. It runs on decentralized networks of peer-to-peer nodes, basically a network of users' computers. This means that you, the user, finally get to own your data and your identity. No single company can just shut it down or censor you because no single company is in control. And the apps, which we call dApps, run on these blockchains, making them unbelievably resilient to failures. All right, now let's see how these principles are creating Web3's first and maybe its most disruptive application, decentralized finance, or DeFi. And its goal is, well, to basically rebuild our entire financial system from scratch. So, put simply, DeFi is an open, global financial system that's actually built for the internet age. It's the alternative to a system that we all know is kind of opaque, it's tightly controlled, and it's just filled with layers of middlemen. Instead, it uses automated code, what we call smart contracts, to handle everything. And this table here perfectly shows how DeFi is building parallel services to everything we already use. So instead of a centralized exchange, you've got protocols like Uniswap. Instead of going to a bank for a loan, you've got platforms like Aave or Compound. And for investing, there are tools like Yearn. It's a whole new financial infrastructure that runs 24/7, is open to literally anyone with an internet connection, and it just cuts out so many of the traditional gatekeepers. And the possibilities are already huge. You can lend out your assets and earn interest on them, borrow against your crypto, trade thousands of different tokens. You can even get into more complex stuff like decentralized insurance or sophisticated portfolio management, all without ever having to ask a bank for permission. So DeFi created this incredibly powerful engine for digital assets. But what happens when you connect that engine to the physical world? Well, this next frontier is all about bridging that gap and unlocking the value of real-world assets in a way we've never seen before. And the sheer scale of this opportunity is, well, it's just staggering. Projections are suggesting that the market for tokenized real-world assets, or RWAs, could hit $5 trillion by 2030. That isn't just growth, that's a monumental shift. So what even is tokenization? It's really just the process of taking a real-world asset, think of a house, a share of stock, or a bond, and creating a digital token on a blockchain that represents ownership of that very real asset. And the amazing thing is, almost anything with value can be tokenized. We're already seeing it happen with US Treasury bonds, with stocks like Apple, with private business loans, even commodities like gold. And you can even have fractional ownership in commercial real estate. What this does is it makes things that were historically hard to sell, illiquid assets, instantly transferable. It opens up investment opportunities that used to be only for the super wealthy to a global audience. Now, moving beyond money and assets, this is where things get really profound. We're talking about how this technology completely revolutionizes our whole concept of identity. It gives you the power to own and control your personal data. And this is all made possible by some incredible breakthroughs in cryptography, specifically something called zero-knowledge proofs, or ZKPs. The idea is simple, but it is so powerful. A ZKP lets you prove that something is true without revealing the secret information behind it. The best analogy is this. It's like proving you know the combination to padlock by showing everyone the unlocked padlock without ever telling anyone the numbers. Okay, let's walk through this diagram to see how it works. Down at the bottom, you have entity A. Let's say they want to prove they have enough money for a transaction. They use their private data, which stays off-chain and totally hidden, to create a zero-knowledge proof. This proof is just a tiny piece of math, basically. That little proof is then sent up to the main public blockchain, what you see at the top. The network can instantly check that the proof is valid, confirming the transaction without ever seeing the private bank balance itself. It's just a brilliant way to get both security and privacy at the same time. And this chart really helps visualize the advantage here. If you compare ZKPs, that green spider chart on the left, to other ways of doing privacy, you can see their unique strengths. See how the shape pushes all the way out to the edges for things like privacy preserving and on-chain verifiable. That's pretty much the holy grail for digital identity. You can prove who you are or what you own without having to splash all your personal info across the internet for everyone to see. But of course, building this whole new digital frontier, it's not easy. It's a world that's filled with just immense promise, but also some really significant challenges that we all need to navigate carefully. One of the biggest hurdles is just scaling. For blockchain to be used by billions of people, it has to get a lot faster and a lot cheaper. And that's where these solutions called rollups come in. As you can see in this table, they work by processing a ton of transactions off the main, slower blockchain. And then they bundle them all up into a single, secure proof that gets recorded on chain. The two main flavors are optimistic rollups, which basically assume transactions are valid unless someone proves otherwise, and ZK rollups, which use those powerful crypto proofs we just talked about to guarantee validity right from the start. This kind of innovation is absolutely key for mass adoption. And we have to be really clear-eyed about the other risks too. Regulations are still a messy patchwork all over the world, which creates a ton of uncertainty. You have governance issues and what some people call the decentralization illusion, where some projects aren't nearly as user-controlled as they claim to be. And of course, underneath it all are the technical risks. Bugs in the smart contracts, security hacks that can lead to devastating losses. It's a reminder that this is all still a very new and very experimental space. But despite all the challenges, the direction of travel is clear. We are absolutely moving toward a financial system that's more open, more accessible, and at its core, digital. The question is no longer if this transformation is going to happen, but really, how are we all going to participate in shaping it? So what role will you play in this new digital economy?